Let's understand the role of the TypeScript in Angular and the front-end technologies. Very first thing, what is Angular and how the TypeScript play a very good role in that. So Angular is an advanced front-end framework which is used to build the great complex applications in the front end. So it takes help of the HTML, it takes help of Java, the TypeScript, JavaScript, CSS, and few other things, and it combines all these things together and build a great framework for front-end development, that is Angular. So in Angular, for all the scripting related activities, so to perform all the scripting related tasks, your if else logic, calling the data from the REST API, backend database, and everything, the coding is done in the TypeScript, and it plays a very big role in Angular. And to do the display things for the front end, like HTML and the CSS are used just to represent the data on the screen, but the actual operations, the logical activities, the business logic is being implemented in the TypeScript. So in this particular module, we will see how to install an Angular, how to create a demo application, and how to see what are the activities the TypeScript can perform inside Angular. We'll also learn the integration of TypeScript with the Angular, the tsconfig file, and the different configurations available in detail with a very good example. So let's quickly begin the new module, TypeScript in Angular. Let's begin the Angular installation. So we are on the official website for the Angular here, the angular.io. So here, if you just navigate to the docs, then setup here inside the get started one, setup. It will give you the setup or how you can do a local setup for the Angular, what are the dependencies are required, and the steps for the installation. So very first thing, it is saying that you should be having a knowledge of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Yes, it is needed. Along with that, it is also stating that the TypeScript knowledge is it will be helpful, but it is not required, because we know the TypeScript is a superset for the JavaScript. So if you're aware of the JavaScript, writing the code in the TypeScript will not be a big problem. But if you want to use the advanced things, you must be knowing TypeScript. And we have already learned the TypeScript. So we'll see how the TypeScript is implemented in Angular. Initially, we required the Node.js and the npm package manager. So we have already these two things installed when we have done the initial setup for our TypeScript, but still will confirm. So it is stating that we should be having a node installed. So you can just check with node hyphen hyphen version, and it will be compulsorily installed at your location, because at the initial stage when we have done the TypeScript compiler installation, we did all this installation. So this you should confirm, and if there is any problem in this node version, if you are not able to see this node version, for you the node version can be anything else, that's not a big trouble. If you're not getting this node version, so you have to perform a node installation from an official website of node, nodejs.org, and please make sure to download the latest LTS version and do not use the current one, use the stable one. Okay, after that, once you're done with that installation, you should be able to see this version. If you are not able to see the troubleshooting steps, you can just Google it out, or the general troubleshooting steps are, you need to restart your VS Code. That's the first step. Otherwise, you may need to restart your machine system as well. If that is also not solving the problem, you have to check it on the Stack Overflow and more options with whatever the system level problems or the issues are happening. But at the end, you should be getting this successfully. The next thing, you should confirm npm version, and this will be compulsorily it will be compulsorily present at your location if node is working, because it's a part of the node installation itself. So both are here ready for me, so I'll just quickly start the Angular installation. So if we just move forward here, it is giving us a command to install the Angular. So let's copy this command here and paste it. So very simply, it is saying that it's an npm install. We are trying to install globally -g and then @angular/CLI. So there's a detail. It's a very detailed framework. We are not going to in much detail what exactly this /CLI and everything. So all together we can say we are performing an Angular installation as of now. It may ask you a couple of questions when you're doing it, and for me it's already installed, so it will not take much time. It is just checking the latest versions and everything. So it might take around 3 to 4 minutes if your internet connection is good, or maybe it will take more time. So it started giving some issues here. Yes, of course. So it is giving the permission denied. And if you're doing it in the MacBook, so you may need to use the command called sudo in front of it to give the admin permission. And if you're using the Windows, the appropriately Windows related operation you need to do, maybe it will give you a prompt to give the admin access. Let it complete. Yes, so for me it's super simple. It's done super fast because already I just now updated before recording this section. And once I'm done with this installation, I can say ng version. What is this ng? Ng stands for Angular. And please make sure here we shouldn't use hyphen hyphen. You just need to mention ng version. So let's see, we should get the latest version. So I'm getting the latest version 16 for my Angular here. For you, the Angular version can be something different based upon the version is available when you are trying this particular assignment. So the Angular installation is also successful for us. So the next step is to create the first project that we are going to see in the next lecture. Let's start creating the Angular project. So we have a command to create an Angular project, and when we do that, it will ask us a couple of questions. What will be your project name? What is the type of project you are creating? And then what are the dependencies you want to use? Few more things it will ask regarding the Angular. So here we will not go in much details about it because we just want to create a dummy project and understand the role of the TypeScript in that. If you want to learn TypeScript, so separately you should be learning a TypeScript in a separate different course because that's a huge topic. So we'll more focus on how TypeScript is playing a big role in the Angular project here. So to create a project here, I just need to mention ng new and the my project name. So it's super simple. Ng stands for Angular, new project, and the project name. Let's hit enter. It's asking me, would you like to add Angular routing? I'll say no because I want to create a super simple Angular project as of now. Which style of the format would you like to use? So I'll select the by default one. I just need to hit enter here. Do not select anything new because it will give you some more different configuration which are not necessary now. So whatever the default is there, CSS, let it be at and hit the enter button. It will take a 1 or 2 minutes of time based upon the processing speed because it will download and keep ready all the dependencies for the Angular, and Angular is a very big framework, so it will gather thousands of libraries which are required from the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, and many more. So it might take some time, and as soon as it is completed, you can see it is showing us our project folder, that is my app here. So very first thing, if I'm opening this my app folder, it is giving me the bunch of files and the folders which consist of my first Angular project. Before doing all these activities, I just want to compile and run my Angular application and see the output first to make sure my project creation is successful. Then we'll go in much detail about this hierarchy, where the TypeScript we are using and the TypeScript configuration file, .json file, and many more. To run this project, I just need, firstly, I should be inside my project. If you are clearly observing, I'm inside the folder called Udemy project. And you can see here, but I should be inside my project. The name of my project is my app. So I'll say cd my app. Now the terminal is inside my project. So now I can say ng serve. What is this ng serve? It is a command to compile and run your application locally on your machine. So it will give you the localhost address, localhost colon 4200 port to see your Angular output. So ng here, the Angular and the serve is a command. Let's hit enter. It might ask you a couple of questions here initially. Would you like to give any data sharing and everything? You can just hit no here and proceed. It will take some time initially when you are doing it first time because it will compile all the libraries which are present. And when you do it second time, it is in a watch mode. So that time it won't take any big time. So let's see the outcome here. So here is the output. Localhost 4200, and this is my first Angular project that we have created. So it is giving it by default consists of few things. That's the reason we are able to see some output with a blue background here, some logo, some text, a small beautiful animation here. If we click on that, some more new things are opening. So it is just navigating and giving a links to the different new pages here. But overall, it is just giving us a default content. Let's try to understand one very interesting thing here, HTML index.html. So let me just navigate you inside index.html file. So in this particular index.html file, if you clearly observe this entire project is this one. Only the line, the 13 lines of code. If you clearly observe, even if you right click here and do the view page source, it will just give you these 13 lines. That's it. So now let's see the power of TypeScript here. The line number 11, it is showing us app root. It is something unexpected. Maybe you're seeing the first time. If you are from a background of HTML, it is not a known element something. We have seen an element called body, h1, passage, table. These are the tags and many more elements there are, but there is no element or any tag with the name app root. So this app root is being created by this particular Angular project, and inside this app root, the whole project is there. And that's the reason when you are doing a right click and saying view page source, it is just giving you these many lines of code. After that, one more interesting thing, it is also giving many JavaScript files here, .js, .js, .js. Let's try to open this .js file. So it is having a bunch of lines of code that is looks a very critical here and not that much readable. So what we are able to understand out of this, when we are compiling our Angular project, what are the JavaScript, HTML, and every other code we are writing that is getting converted to the JavaScript. And that's the reason when we are seeing the output is having the HTML and the JavaScript only. There is nothing called TypeScript here. We'll see in more detail in the upcoming lecture where is the TypeScript here, what we mean by components, and we'll also try to create few more components and try playing it around and create a small little application in the next lecture. The next lecture is Angular components and the TypeScript usage in that. So the Angular component, what we mean by Angular component and what are the building blocks in that. So let me just navigate you to one of the great theme here, which is looking very great here. This is one of the sample theme. I just randomly, I was checking on the Google. So it's a good example here where I can elaborate you. So let's see if this is the website you need to create inside an Angular project. So this we have already seen inside one of the example where how to use the decorator in an Angular way. So we tried the same example, and here also we will try to create a same small example to just display this revenue, orders, customers, and the product views in a similar way that is visible here. So we are able to see this total revenue. This is a separate box. Then one more box is orders, and the third one is this, and the fourth one is this. So these all four boxes are completely independent from each other. The working of that, how they are getting displayed and everything, all those four are just getting displayed at one particular place. So all these particular building blocks that we are able to see, let's say these are the four different blocks. So this each and every block we can say as a component inside Angular. So if I want to create this dashboard and I want to display these four boxes, I'll say I need to create four different components inside my Angular project. My first component will be total revenue, second component will be orders, third component will be product, and the fourth component will be customer. In Angular component, each component will have some set of files. It will have an HTML file to represent this on the screen. Like this is a heading, then it's a one more heading with a bold effect. This is one more here with a green color effect here. So these all HTML data we need to display, right? So each and every component will have one HTML file. Again, this data we need to download from the backend, and we need to get it from our REST API call and everything. So we also need to write some logical activities for this. So that behavior you need to write inside the TypeScript that we have learned till now. So the second file which is most needed inside a component is a TypeScript. The third file, which is an optional, that is a CSS file. To give extra effects and everything for your component, you need a CSS to give colors, animation, the way you are able to see here. This is a green color, this is a gray color, this is a complete black color. So you need a CSS. And the last file is optional, that is a testing file. So once you created this component, you will be also keep testing it. So you can separately create a test cases for this particular component inside a test file. So these are the four files required to create a component inside Angular. So I hope you understood now what we mean by component inside an Angular. If you go to the official documents and try to read out all the detailed thing, it might look a difficult, but it's super simple. All the things that you are able to see on the screen of an Angular project, you can divide in component. Let's say this is my first component, this is second, this is third, this is fourth. This can be also the fifth one where the graph is displayed, the complete right side which is visible here. This we can create the sixth one and all. And again here this will be different components we can create, but we are just talking about creating these four components as of now. And in each and every component, as we have seen, there will be four files. One is HTML to display this data. Second is the TypeScript file to have a behavior to write some logical activities like getting data, performing some calculation and everything. The third file is CSS to give some CSS coloring and animation effect. The fourth file optional and to write some test cases to test the component independently. The core intention of behind Angular is to write a complex big application much faster and in independent way. Why I'm saying in an independent way? As I told you, all these small things we can divide in components. Let's say one of the component failed. The revenue component failed. It won't affect anyway your orders component. Won't affect anyway other components. So this behavior will help us to create a big application with much faster and multiple people can coordinate on the same project very well. So now in next lecture, we'll try to create these four components and we'll try to play around different files. So as we have learned in the previous lecture, the complete Angular output and your complete screen output is being divided inside blocks, building blocks, and that we call as component. Each and everything is a component here. The top side menu you are able to see, this is a component. This is one more drop down you are able to see, that's a component. This black color menu you are able to see, that's also component. So each and everything here is a component and you need at least one component to create the Angular project. So we have created one default project here. So this is also a one component present here. So let's see in code what are all the things it covers in one component. So inside our project here, so if you clearly observe here, there is something called app root inside our index.html file. And this is our first component and this is called as root component, which is covering entire project. Inside this component, we are going to create multiple components. So where is the code? Where is the HTML? Where is the CSS? Where is the TypeScript? Where is the testing file for our component? Because we just now learned the component will have four different files. So if you navigate inside the source folder, and there is something called app folder, and this app folder consists of your CSS file, your HTML file, your testing file, and your TS file. So this is the four different files, and one more extra file is there. It's a module file. That's a different thing, and we'll try to cover this in the next lecture, the module file. So as we have seen, like the complete data on this particular screen is just one component in our case. So for complete all this HTML code is written over here. If you just want to see it, you can just remove all of this, which is present inside app component HTML, the HTML file of our root component. You can just say hello. As soon as I'm saving my code, you should be able to see the compilation is happening automatically. So here you can relate your knowledge. We were using the TypeScript watch. So it is similar to that. And we don't need to do anything for that because everything is automated here. So I'm also able to see the output automatically and I'm able to see just hello. That's super perfect. So it means we identified the first component which is being created automatically for us. Next. So in the next one, there is a TS file, TypeScript. So what is TypeScript file is doing here? It is doing the logical activities like the storing the data temporarily on this, which is needed to display on the screen, getting the data from the backend using REST API, all those activities, logical activities, your business logic, we can do it inside a TypeScript file. Again, we'll see in detail how this decorator we are using, what's the role of this class in terms of the TypeScript, how this decorator is being used to connect your HTML file with the TS in detail we'll see. So before that, there is one more file called CSS. So this CSS file is also attached here. And just to show you one example, here we are doing an hello, right? So I'll just add some background color here to this hello so that we can confirm it's getting affected here. It's not working. It's an H1. Yeah, so we are not using any tag here. Let me write it inside an H1. Yes. It means whatever the CSS code I'm writing inside my CSS file of the component, it is getting reflected in the HTML of the same component. Now, it's very interesting to understand in a single component how the separate DSS file, how the separate CSS file, how the separate HTML file and the separate TypeScript file is all combined together and acting like a component for us. You can very clearly see here there is no connection here for this HTML file and the CSS file, but still both are working in connection with each other. Generally, we need to write the script source and this CSS is getting connected here. We used to write it previously, right? But in this case, there is no connection we are able to see. So how these files are getting connected? Again, how this file is getting connected with the TS file. So that's a magic present inside our decorator here. So let's try to understand what is this class. So this class is saying that I'm just a class. The name is app component. So I'm representing the app component class. I'm just a normal class who is converting this normal class to a component class. That role is being played by our special decorator given by the Angular called component. So this particular component decorator is enhancing the functionalities of our class. That's the reason it is acting like a component in terms of Angular. That's the reason this CSS file and HTML are combined together and also this particular TypeScript file. And you can also able to see some inputs our decorator is accepting. And why our decorator is able to accept some inputs? Because we are calling the decorator factory. If you remember, we used to write something like this for trim and the user confirmation decorator and everything. So it is also calling a decorator factory, which is accepting some inputs here to perform some execution for your decorator. And this is the way a normal class is getting converted to a special component using our decorator. And if you clearly observe here, it is giving the path of the HTML, it is giving the path of the CSS. So it is combining all this file together and converting this class as a component, and we are getting a great output out of it called component. So let's try to create in the next lecture 4 different components using which we can display the total revenue, orders, customers, and the product views. Before creating the component, let's understand which is the best place to display that inside our HTML files. So we have seen some HTML file here where we were displaying or adding the hook for our root component to get displayed, because finally this HTML output is getting displayed on the screen, and inside body we have mentioned our app root component. So we are discussing about displaying these 4 different new components called revenue, orders, product, and customers. So here, can we do that, or will it be good to do? No, because it's a separate HTML file in which only one root component should be present, ideally as per the Angular standards. If you want to create more components and display more components which are required for your business application, so you should be doing that inside a root component. Of course, inside one component, we can create any number of component in a nested fashion. So I'll go inside my root component HTML here, and I'm able to see hello here. So here I can create those 4 different components and I can keep displaying here. So as in this way, we can do it in nested. So to display this output, so I'll just try to create these 4 components, and firstly I'll create some space for that. And I'll just remove this red color here, which is not looking that much great. Let me just change this color a little bit here. Let me save this, I guess. Let's make it a bit more lighter. Okay. It's looking a little bit okay now, fine. And it's not looking great, but let it be for now. So I need to create a space here to display those 4 components. So let's quickly create a table. a tr and a td inside it. And the first I need for a revenue, then I need it for orders. Again, we need one more tr, then td, and here we can display, I guess, the product and the customers. So here we can say the product views and customers. Okay, so we have created some space here in our app root HTML file where we can display these components, and it's looking good. Let's create a little bit more good spacing here. So style, let's occupy the 40% of the width of the screen, or yeah, 40% will be good in this case. And for this particular TD also, let's give some spacing here. I'm occupying the 50% of the area for the revenue, 50% area for the orders. Again, the same thing here and the same thing here. And let's also apply some borders here. Border like 1 pixel will make it solid. It's completely optional, but it's better to do so that we can see the clear outcome. It's looking good here. So now instead of this particular just revenue a single word, the complete component I want to display, where I can have all these details like image and everything and title, the value and few more other options here. So let's try to do that. So to create the first component, you should be going inside your terminal. So for you already the terminal will be visible where your project is running already. We should not stop that. Otherwise you will not be able to see the output over here when you refresh your screen. So you should be creating a new terminal either from here or from here. And here you need to make sure you are inside your project called my app. In this case, for you, it might be a different one. So here you need to say ng angular. G stands for generate, C stands for component, and my first component name is revenue. As soon as I hit enter button here, you can observe it is saying that the 4 different new files are created and one more file is updated, that is module file. So what are the 4 files created? The CSS one, the HTML one, the spec.ts means the testing one, and the TS file. And even in the folder structure, if you observe here, a new folder inside the app folder got created called revenue, in which I'm able to see my CSS file, my HTML file, and the TS file and the spec file. And everything is similar that we have seen for the app root component as well. So in this particular HTML file, it is saying revenue works. It means it is able to display that. Sounds good. And as we discussed, inside our HTML file of the root component, here we'll try to display our revenue component. So let's try to do that. I need to mention app revenue here. And how I'm exactly specifying this name? You can also copy this name from the revenue TS file. There is something called as selector. How we can select this particular component to display in other HTML file. So from there you can get this name. Let's save this and see the output. So it is showing revenue works. It means we got a dedicated place, a dedicated HTML file, the TS file, a dedicated component where we can completely work for this particular revenue. And you can see the similar kind of thing is visible here. So this is having a great UI, but we are just going with a simple one. So it might not look that great in this case, but the functionality point of view, we are almost similar to the example that we have seen. So here, let's try to display the HTML output in a more good fashion. So we'll create a heading here called revenue. And then we'll also create one more heading here, which is displaying some revenue amount. Let's say, for example, 123, or the exact one we'll try to do. This is 750. So let's say 750, it is showing in million. Then let's add a dollar symbol here like this. Okay, let's see the outcome. So we are displaying in this way. After that, we are displaying this 750 value inside our HTML. This is not a correct way because this value is going to come up from the database from our backend server, maybe. So we have a separate TS file here, which is responsible to get that values from the REST API, database, or whatever it could be, and then we should be displaying inside an HTML file. Inside a component, each and every file have some certain responsibility. The HTML file have a responsibility to display the things in a correct way. The CSS file is having a responsibility to display the files in a nicer way with CSS effects, and the TS file is having a responsibility to perform the logical operation over here. So this 750 is coming from the REST API, for example. So very first thing, we should have a variable here. So let's create a variable here called revenue, for example, which is of number. And here I'll mention the amount called 750. So instead of displaying directly here, I'm keeping that value over here. And now using this variable, I can write some logic here to get this value from the database or the REST API. And once that is done, I'll just store that value over here inside my variable called revenue. And so right now we are not going to write a logic to get this data from the REST API and everything, but you can just consider that we can do that when you learn Angular and everything. As soon as you are done and when the value is ready inside this variable, you can directly use this variable inside the HTML. How? So instead of this 750, I'll just mention opening curly brackets, closing curly brackets, and in between revenue. Let me apply a prettier here. So this is the way I'm making use of a variable to directly display inside my HTML. And let's see the outcome now. Super correct. Let's go back to the TS file and let's make it 751. I don't need to do anything inside my HTML file and the output is getting changed because we are using the same variable here to get displayed. And now if the database is giving some different value, so of course your HTML will be keep changing and you don't need to change a single line of code inside the HTML file. So all this variable connectivity with HTML and everything, the Angular framework is doing in a great fashion by using decorators and many more functionalities of TypeScript, combining with JavaScript, combining with HTML, combining with CSS. And this helps to create the bigger application, the more complex application in a more simple fashion. So hope you understood how to create a component and how these all linking works. Let's quickly try to create the remaining three components called orders, product views, and the customers in the next lecture. Time to create the remaining three components. So we'll start with this order components here. So in the similar way, we can do ng generate component called orders here. Let's hit enter. It will again give you the four different files created here and a new folder got created orders. And let's try to do something inside our orders component. Before doing anything, I'll just go to the HTML file of root component again here and I'll mention here I want to display orders component at this place. Again, how I'm getting this exact name selector. If you go to TS file, you can see here. Let's see the output. We should able to see order works here. So let's add more HTML and the TS inside our orders component. And here we'll try to display the orders heading. Then we should display how many orders we are having. So what I can do, I can just go to the revenue and copy the same HTML pattern, put it over here. And here I'll give the heading called orders. And here I'll also use some orders variables here. This M and dollars are not necessary here. And inside my TS file, now I'll again try to keep one variable called orders so I can calculate how many orders are there. And let's say the number of orders are 684. So 684, perfect. And let's use this variable inside our HTML over here. So this is called as string interpolation, this syntax. This is called string interpolation. Let's save the files and see the output. Yes, we are able to display the second component. Let's quickly create the third one and the fourth one. So I'll just take a quick pause here so that you can do on your own the third and the fourth component, which is similar for this. Hope it worked for you. Let's do it together. So the products and the customers. So I'm creating the products here. Then again, I'm creating one more customers. I'll close all this. I'll just copy this HTML. It will help me to do the remaining. So inside my products, I'll say here products. Okay. And I need a variable called products here, which is of type string. I'll display some value inside it, which is 113870, 113870. Okay. And inside my customers HTML file, I'll display the similar one, which is of the previous. Here I'll display the customers, for example, and here also the customers variable string interpolation. I'm just trying to give the same number so that it will be easy for the comparison. 2500, 2500K. Okay. So again, for these units and everything, there is a separate thing called pipe, which will give all those, like you can also assign the currencies and everything. So that's a different scenario called pipe inside Angular. So we'll not go in much details about it. Let me just close all of these tabs here, collapse all this. So we are ready with the 4 component. Let's see how our output is looking now. We are still not able to see this product views and the customers. Anyone can guess? I'll just take a pause here. Yes, why we are not getting? Because we have created our components, but we haven't mentioned where it will get displayed. So here I need to display the uh, products component I want to display here, and here I want to display the customers component app customers. Let's apply the prettier here. Okay. Yes, and we are able to see the outcome. So it's we are almost near to the output. It's all about just adding some extra UI so that we can get a better feel here of the output. Like it's showing some images, some icon here, and more. So that's all the CSS stuff we can do. But more or less, what we need to understand how the 4 different components we have combined here and how all are independent of each other. Let's say a new bug came inside these orders. Let's say, for example, inside these orders, if there's something is happening and it's showing some wrong output here, always a plus extra 5 orders it is showing. And this is what the new bug is identified by our user and he stated. So we just need to repair it. So we just need to look inside our orders components. We don't need to do anything inside our revenue component, product, customers, and the root component. So we just need to go inside our orders component. So you can just check inside the HTML file, okay, how exactly you're doing a display. It's a pretty straightforward. You're doing a string interpolation here. So something logic may be missing here, which the data you're taking from the backend. And here you figured out the bug. You just need to correct it and your bug is solved. You don't need to look into the thousands of files in your project. So in this way, it will help you to go very narrow to figure out the issues because all are independent of each other, these all components. Of course, there will be some dependency. There are more features inside the Angular called services, dependency injection, and many more that we are not discussing in this particular module because that's a separate topic to learn completely. But hope you understood what's the role of the TypeScript and what's the role of the decorators and everything inside the TypeScript components and the Angular components over here.